Okay, recording. Okay, so we've got majority of us on here are from building pathways. We're expecting 7 people. I think from the last list that we had, people that have joined via Eventbrite. But we have one person, Callum, and hopefully others will join. Callum, really appreciate you coming today and taking the time out in your evening to be here with us. And our intention is for you and for others that join today is to really make the most out of the session and really benefit from hearing from, I would say, an expert in his field, Julian, who's going to talk about his organisation, A. Elkins, and the work that they're currently doing in South London, across South London. And it's all really exciting stuff that's going to go on for many years to come. That's going to create many opportunities for young people and adults within South London in particular. So we're here today, really, the aim of this session is to prepare listeners who are interested or may not have considered construction as a career option to get an insight into the world of work and to understand some of the next steps in relation to this project. This project is called Build Your Own Future. And the project is really about preparing people for the industry through engaging with an employer from the start who will guide them and prepare them so they're best prepared for opportunities as they come up. As you know, many industries, many organizations across the world have been hit with the COVID pandemic. And what I've seen, and I'm sure Julian will testify as well, is that construction has been consistent throughout. It's been hit, but there has been opportunities, and there still are opportunities for people to go into the industry. And I know already from our engagement with Julian that there are live opportunities that are coming up all the time within his organisation. So just to introduce myself and my team, you can see online here, there's a few of us. Everyone just wave. We've got Tracy. Tracy is one of the lead workers on this project. So she'll be the person that engages with individuals from the very start of the project and supports them throughout. We've got Mike Davis as well, Marks, and he's one of the directors with Building Pathways. And we've got Usha online. Usha, we can't see you at the moment, but Usha is the project manager for this particular project. So the running today, really, in terms of how we interact on the session, as I say, I want us to make the most of it. So, you know, if there are any questions that you'd like to ask Julian as he's going through his presentation, feel free to put in the chat box any questions, and we'll make sure that we'll answer the questions towards the end of this project, this session. So there will be some time after his presentation for us to have a conversation and to respond to any questions that you might have. And that's the same with our team as well. Tracy, Mike, if you've got any questions, or anyone else, you know, feel free at the end to pick Julian's ear. Okay, so I won't say anything more than that. As I say, we've got a guest speaker here, so I want to give him the floor, or give him the screen as it is. And Julian, over to you. If you would like to introduce yourself and your work.
Yeah, I'm Julian Dixon. I'm from A&E Elkins. I've got a title of Key Account Manager. My experience, as you've put, I'm not sure about expert, but experience, nearly 30 years, or actually over 30 years now. Started off as a QS, have done estimating, project management, and I've also got qualifications in building surveying, health and safety. So yeah, I've got a broad knowledge and in-depth knowledge across the board. It's the first time I've ever done anything like this in my life. So I'm quite glad it's over a computer screen and not sitting at the front of a classroom. So, but yeah, it's a challenge. I enjoy writing, as Mike knows. So I've had a good old crack at doing this, and I hope it's interesting for those people that are watching it. So yeah, right, next slide. Fantastic, thanks Usha. So A&E Elkins, a little bit about what we do. We're, as the title says, we're a new build, refurbishment, maintenance and roofing construction company. We were started in 1963 by a pair of brothers, and our current MD is the son of one of those, and there's several other family members still within the company. We are a medium-sized enterprise. We're not small and we're definitely not large, but we've basically been working in and around southeast London since we started works, and recently we've gone into new build, which is off-site modular, which I'll touch on later, which is building new homes in the Royal Borough of Greenwich, where hopefully we'll be able to make some placements for apprentices and work experience and that sort of thing in partnership with Building Pathways. As it says there, who we are, we're based in Lewisham in southeast London, and who we are is our people. It's the company. We have got lots of people that have come up through apprenticeship schemes through Southwark and Lewisham councils, where we've sort of done lots of work on social housing. So we've got resident liaison officers that have come up through the ranks. We've also got our electrical manager, who just started off as an apprentice, and he's now actually our electrical manager, fully qualified, and he's only in his early 20s. So that sort of shows you the opportunities that are there if you're interested and you want help from us to support you and go through it. So topics for today is, it's just a brief touch just to give you an introduction about the UK construction industry. What is it and how does it impact us and on the economy? The built environment life cycle, which is basically the cradle to grave of a project, any type of construction. Then roles within the industry, just a brief snapshot of all the different types of roles that there are, based on tradespeople, the people on site that actually do the work, and the technical and professional people that enable them to do that type of work. And then I've also included the digital revolution in construction. Obviously, the digital age is well and truly upon us. I've been there from the start 30 odd years ago, I think, with the first computers, and it's in a position now where it's having an impact not just on our everyday lives but with our professional lives in construction as well. So I'm just going to have a quick touch on that. Is there any way I can move these? That's it, brilliant, got it. I had half of the screen blocked off there, apologies for that. Right, so the UK construction industry, the Office for National Statistics, civil servants, they define construction as that of new buildings and repairs or alterations to existing properties in Great Britain, measured by the amount charged for the work, including work by civil engineering companies. Typical government, that's not actually a true reflection of what the industry is and what it provides, but it's part of it. The value of the UK construction industry, it provides employment, it provides everyone with their infrastructure from getting from A to B, and it provides all the buildings that we live in, etc. And the time benefits of the construction industry can give you long-term job security, as well in providing infrastructure that can last centuries and buildings that can last decades or even longer, depending on how they're built and the budget. Yeah, so a couple of bits here. The construction industry, it's the largest provider of the fixed assets that underpin the UK economy. And just to give you an example, in 2017, under half the creation of the vital assets resulted from the construction of dwellings, other buildings and structures in monetary terms totaled about £132 billion, and that's just in 1 year. And that's just by the very restrictive measures that the government and the Office for National Statistics actually use. So as we put there, I think in 2018, they reckoned that it was 6.2% of the GDP came from construction, but that only allows for works carried out by the building, civil engineering and specialist companies on site. But then you've also got all the designers, all the material suppliers, the off-site manufacturers, which is something that's really on the increase at the moment. you can easily double that figure. And then you've got things like the airline, the railways, DIY enthusiasts. So the figure could be nearer to 20% or even higher. Right, so I've touched on the cradle to grave, the built environment life cycle. So this comes in 6 stages. So first of all, you have to plan. So your project, whatever it may be, whether it be a house, whether it be a road, you need to identify the need for that project and see whether it's actually feasible. So the cost, the time scales you've got to do it, the quality that you require, all those sort of things you need to plan up front. Then you come to the design stage, and that allows for the production of all the information that is necessary in manufacturing the product and being able to construct that project. You then have the construction phase, which is the actual building and construction, either on-site or off-site, or a combination of the two. You then have use and occupation, and that is the management of the project once it's been delivered to the client, to ensure best value and the peak performance. So there's a whole handover, make sure that it meets all the building regulations, it's got all the certifications that you need, and that the occupier, the client, knows how to use that project, that construction or that road or that piece of railway line. They know how to use it. Then you come on to the 5th part in the cycle, which is maintain and repair, which is the ongoing process to ensure that the project lasts as long as was planned originally in the feasibility, or even longer. Making sure that you have proper maintenance regimes in place to repair deterioration caused by the climate or deliberate damage, or replacing failing or damaged materials, or if you've had something that's been designed incorrectly, classic example obviously something like Grenfell, then you need to take off those faulty designs and reinstall something that will make that building safe, secure, and last the life cycle that it's supposed to. And then the last part in the whole process is repurposing. That could just involve simple demolition and selling off of the site, or building something else on the site, or it could be that you've got something like an old warehouse that you actually now turn into housing, residential, or you repurpose it for something else. That's just to give you some examples of, this is actually some figures from this year. So just to show you how busy we've been in construction over the years, we've now got more than 28 million homes in the country. We've got 250,000 miles of road, 2.4 million types of other buildings, anything from shopping centres, schools, offices, although I would imagine some of those offices might be repurposed over the next few years as everyone goes online. We've got 46 airports, 120 cargo handling ports, 400 other types of ports and harbours. We've got 10,000 miles of national rail. It's quite good that says it's national, because I think that's going to be nationalised very soon, as you've probably seen in the news. And there'll be lots of work needed on that infrastructure to build it up to the current standards, and to make sure that it lasts for another few hundred years. We've also got 260,000 miles of water mains, and over 350,000 miles of sewers. So you've got more sewers than you've got water mains or roads. So it's that just shows you how important that is for the country. So yeah, that's where we go from there. Right, roles within the industry, as I touched on earlier, I've split this into tradespeople, the things that get things built, maintained, repaired, refurbished and demolished, and the technical, professional and management people that assist them in doing those jobs. And you can see the split there. That is only very approximate, and it doesn't take in the whole scenario. I wouldn't be at all surprised if it's actually flipped the other way around, if someone had the time and the energy to actually measure it correctly. There's lots of subcontractors. It's an industry that's driven by little bands of 2 or 3 people, as well as the bigger companies, but there's lots of small subcontractors that make up the industry. Okay. So just to give you an example of the tradespeople, so the hands-on people that you could get on site, wood trade, so carpenters and interior fit out for shops or units, hospitals, bricklayers, obviously, that build the external structures, building envelope specialists, so that could be curtain walling, cladding, all that sort of thing, painters and decorators, fairly self-explanatory, but you've got someone who can hold a paintbrush and you've got someone that can do something very specialist. There's lots of different ranges of painters and decorators. Plasterers and dry liners, that can include things also like cornice work, and what they call wet trades, basically. So if you've got a good steady hand and a strong arm, that's something for you, definitely. Roofers, there's lots of different types of roofs. So you can have tiled roofs, flat roofs, you can have slate roofs. There's GRP roofs that have come in, lots of different types of roofs that you can have. So there's many different careers in that. And that's the one our company started off with. So they're obviously very keen to keep that one going. Floorers, that could be from laying tiles, lino, lots of different floor finishes. Glazers, so that's all to do with glass for windows or doors, or specialist glazed walls. Specialist building operatives, so ceiling fixers, so suspended ceilings that you see in offices, doctors' surgeries, all those sorts of things. Pipe layers and thermal insulation fitters, so a lot of the time all that stuff would be hidden above the ceilings, but now architecture and maintenance as well have made people realise it's actually better not to cover that sort of stuff up, so you can see when there's a fault, and it also saves on the expense of maintaining your ceilings. Then we've got scaffolders who erect scaffold to reach those hard to difficult places, either for the building or for the maintenance works. You've got plant machinery operatives and drivers. Now that's the plant that you have driving around on site, like a JCB or a digger, as opposed to fixed mechanical plant engineers and fitter, which talks about big bits of machinery on site, like your boilers, your air source heat pumps, your electrical substations, all that sort of thing. You've got these steel erectors and structural labourers. They're the guys that put the steel frame up, like in this picture at the back there, you've got a steel frame structure. They're the guys that do that and put that into place. That's a very specialist job, and takes a lot of know-how and coordination, that one. Electrical trades and installation. So it's not just your electricians that put your light switches and everything else in. You've got fire alarm systems, sprinkler systems, computer IT systems, all that sort of stuff, comms, all that sort of thing as well. Plumbing, heating, ventilation and air conditioning. It's all lumped together, but it could be anything from plumbing in a tap or a sink, providing an extractor fan, or actually putting air conditioning into an office or to a hospital, or these days people actually have it in their homes as well. And then you've got civil engineering operatives. Now this covers a huge amount of things. This is people like the rail workers, the road layers, the airport guys that put all the stuff there, all the stuff that's done below the ground. So groundworks, concrete works, drainage works. There's a whole section around that. They're the guys that get really wet and dirty and cold out on site, and especially at night when you're driving along a motorway and all the cones are out. They're your guys that are doing that. Then we come on to the professionals and technical people. So the sort of roles you get there, and these are just, again, a few. There is a whole host of people, but you've got your architects, landscape architects. So the architects design the buildings, landscape architects design the gardens and the landscape outside of those built environments. Quantity surveyors, they're like the accountants of the construction industry. They count bricks, but they sort out the payment basically between contractors and clients and subcontractors and clients. Building surveyors, and their job is to diagnose building faults. So they'll often go and look at old buildings and see what's gone wrong, or new buildings if there's a new system failure. And they will also assess things like mortgages for your house. If you want to get a mortgage, it's those guys that will come and look at that. You've got land surveyors. Now they've got a very varied role. Their job is basically to do the levels on site. So you've probably seen the yellow tripods with guys getting wet in the rain and blown away in the weather again. It's those guys that are measuring the land That's a very specialist role, but it's something that's always needed. Contractors need them for setting out the sites when they build on them as well. The structural and civil engineers. So the civil engineers look after all the stuff I said before, below ground, plus the railway, etc. The structural engineers are the ones, any structures, so bridges, any steel frame buildings, concrete frame buildings, piling, they're the ones that do all the calculations. It's you've got to be really good at maths to do that. It's a very, very hard qualification to achieve, but very worthwhile, and they're the guys. That's why we've got a really good record in the world compared to a lot of other countries where things collapse. In this country, we over engineer, and we've got some really good guys on that. CAD technicians, so CAD stands for computer aided design. So in the old days, people used to draw everything on a paper with pen and ink. It's all done on a computer these days, although there are a few practices, only a few literally, that still draw things by hand. So you don't necessarily have to be an architect to be a CAD technician. If you're really good on a PC, then you know your way around a PC and how it works. You could easily pick up being a CAD technician. Construction managers, they oversee in contracting companies, they oversee the projects that are going on, they oversee the contracts managers, you look after individual projects or a raft of projects. You've got project managers that oversee an individual project. It can be for the client, it can be for the contractor, or it can even be for a subcontractor on bigger jobs. You've got your site supervisors, they look after your tradesmen, but they might not actually be tradesmen themselves. They might have been retired tradesmen, or, if you're really into it, but you've got some reason why you can't actually use your hands and work on the tools, then you can help supervise other people. You've got liaison officers. That's normally discussing things with clients. In our industry, with what we do in social housing, it will be talking to tenants in council flats or properties, letting them know what's going on, how things work. Account managers, well, that's like me, and I'm sort of bridge between the contractor and the client, so that we can talk about any issues, we can look at programs, a general overview of what's going on, and trying to make sure that things run smoothly for however long the contract is. Bid writers, and that's something else I do. So if you're tendering for a piece of work, you have to write a bid for it with procurement rules on contracts. So they basically answer all the questions that the client has asked at the tender stage, and show the company in the best light on how they would approach that particular project. You've got human resources in construction, as you do in any other industry. So they look after all the people that work in the company, look after payroll, if you've got personal issues. So they need to be a good communicator. That's them. Accountants, you've got your accountants that are quantity surveyors looking after projects, but you've also got accountants that look after your clients' bills and cash, and the contractor's cash as well. Planners. Planners are the people in local authority where you have to show them what it is you're intending to do on a project when you design it, and they will talk you through all the rules and regulations on that and what you're trying to achieve, and making sure that you're doing things in line with all the different plans, like the London plan, etc. Urban designers, they can work for the contractors, or they can work for the client, and they basically a bit more of a designer that looks at the overall influence of buildings and the aesthetics within a certain area. You've got interior designers, so that will be the people that do all the finishes inside to make it look really nice, whether it be a house, a hotel, or a hospital or anything else. They're the guys that look at that and make it look as good as it can for as cheap as the client can afford, but with the best quality. Facilities management, that is a part of the industry where people look after the building once it's been handed over. So you could have facilities management in offices, you could have it in a hotel, all buildings where it's a big building and you need to look after it for a long period of time, and they make sure that everything runs smoothly. They make sure that the staff and whoever works in that premises, things get resolved quickly, and if a hand dryer breaks down or an air conditioning breaks down, they're the people responsible for that. Builders merchants, Yeah, builders merchants, they're the guys basically that obviously supply the materials for the construction industry. You obviously got your B&Qs and Travis Perkins, etc. Then you've got off-site manufacturers. Now, this is something that's come about recently. Off-site manufacturing has been around for a while, but the quality of it in this country has been really poor up until about the last 5 years ago, when we took on European, dare I say it, methods of off-site construction. So German ideas, Swedish ideas, and we're now building in this country a lot of modular off-site construction. It's the way to go, and COVID has shown its worth, because you can isolate and keep your distance in a warehouse if it's done correctly, and you can still manufacture your module, etc., that can then be taken to site and erected at a later date. Materials manufacturers, so everything that goes into the building, like the bricks, the cladding, the glazing, they're all those people. So you could work for someone that makes windows. You could, you know, there's lots of opportunities out there for that. I think that market could well increase because of the potentials of Brexit. I think we're going to have to start manufacturing a lot more in this country, whereas at the moment it's manufactured abroad. So, you know, that could definitely be something to look at. Press officers, so it's not all about construction. If you've got good IT skills, good communication skills, you like writing, you can sell your company or your client and present them in the best light. You know, that's a good part to getting in the industry. IT specialists and software designers, you know, that's a whole industry in its own. I would say there's a lot of people in IT and construction that haven't necessarily trained in IT, and they've sort of learned it all by themselves. But there's, you know, so there's opportunities for if you're someone who's good at that sort of thing, you can come in, start off in construction, see what it is, and you could actually come up with an idea that could make you millions, and also assist the construction industry. There's lots of designers and software designers out there that are still trying to flog old technology, but there's some really good new exciting technology coming into the market as well, and there's opportunities in that region. Gosh, there was a lot there. Next. Right, good skills to have in construction. As I put here, you don't have to tick all the boxes with these, but these are just some good things to have if you're going to be working on site. Strength and stamina. So that's for tradespeople, because working on site in our weather can be quite hard. So definitely think about that if you want to be a tradesperson. But there are some trades where you wouldn't need that. If you're an electrician, you know, you might have to carry around some transformers, but that's as heavy as it goes. Coordination. You're good at knowing where and when to do something. That's really important. I wouldn't be able to count on both hands, but I'd count on a lot of hands the amount of times things have gone wrong because someone's put something in the wrong place because they didn't think, they weren't coordinated enough. It could have been that they couldn't read a drawing, or they held it upside down, or they just didn't listen when someone told them to do something. They misunderstood. So coordination and communication, really important. Maths and language literacy, really good if you want to read drawings, equipment and materials, but don't worry if you struggle, help's always there. I started off as a QS. I didn't actually find out until I was 40 that I'm dyslexic. So when I used to have to check things 3 or 4 times, whether it be maths or the language that I'd put down, I didn't realise there was something wrong, but it shows if you work hard enough, you can go as far as you like, all right? Written and oral communication. Although letter writing is a thing of the past, there's certain other things, emails, etc., that you have to do. You have to be able to make yourself clear when you communicate with people that you're working with or working for, and you make sure that what you put is accurate. So, you know, but there's lots of support and help out there if you struggle with that sort of thing at the moment. If you're dyslexic or you've got other disabilities or etc., there's lots of help and assistance, and we can certainly point you in the direction with that. Comfortable with modern technology. I've put if you've got a phone or PC and you know how to use it, I'm sure you're going to be fine. A lot of it is what you see is what you get now. there's obviously some specialist IT stuff out there that you have to train for, but a lot of it now is handheld computers or apps that are on your phone that you can take photographs of and just doing tick sheets, etc. So as long as you're comfortable with that, great industry to be in. Critical reasoning skills, the ability to know when something isn't right, really important in construction. Health and safety, when you do your green cards, if you're starting out, that will give you some clues about if you know whether you can figure out if something is right or wrong. There's lots of people that have been in the trade for years that have had accidents and even died because they think they knew it all and they didn't have that skill of looking at something and thinking, actually, that's wrong, I shouldn't be doing that. Or looking at something and thinking, actually, I don't think I've built that right, or I've missed a few screws out. You know, it's having that ability, and you'll know in yourself if you've got that ability. Willingness to learn. No one ever knows everything from day one, and the best way to learn is by your mistakes. You know, I can put my hand on the heart and say that's the way I've learned over the years, and as long as you've got that go-to can-do attitude, you'll get far. Organisational skills. Not everyone can be as organised as someone with severe OCD, and someone with severe OCD might be organised, but they can't do a lot of the other things. So it's one of those things. On site, it's really important to be clean and tidy. And if you're not clean and tidy, you will learn how to be over time. You know, I'm not the most organised person in the world, but I'm gradually getting there over the years, and I've improved myself, and I'm sure you'd be able to as well. Working well with others. I've put there as though there are roles that don't, but generally construction's a team game, but not necessarily. So if you really are shy, retiring type that doesn't get on with people that well, but just likes being out, you could be a land surveyor, you could be someone who flies a drone, you could be a health and safety officer that goes out and criticises what everyone else is doing in the best possible way. So you don't have to be a team player, but it does help in the industry. Next. Yeah, digital revolution in construction. Yeah, all gamers are welcome to join the revolution. I think if you're a gamer, there's lots of opportunities in construction. You don't necessarily have to get your hands on dirty on site. So if we just have a quick look at some of the things that we can do here. Next slide. So I've just highlighted a few of the benefits that this technology revolution's had in the industry. You've got the productivity's increased, so things like planning software. So planning a project all used to have to be done by hand. It's now done by machine, and you can update plans as and when things change, and it helps those people that are out on site doing it. BIM. Now I'm going to tell you what BIM is in a minute, but it's building information modelling, and CAD is the computer aided design. That allows for increased productivity and a quicker turnaround for all the different project stages, especially when things change. Whereas in the old days, drawings had to go out, notifications on certain pads of paper. We used to have triplicate on certain sites for variations, and XYZ had to sign it off, and it could be that something small could take you a week to get it okayed before you could actually build it again, which could delay a project, whereas these days it's a lot more instant with technology. We also had a huge increase in the accuracy of construction drawings due to the collaboration techniques and reduction in clashes that you get through using BIM and CAD. Research. Huge help here with technology is you can actually figure out how construction materials and systems will work together virtually without having to build it first. You still have to get your systems tested through the BRE, which is the British Research Establishment, so that you can get a BBA agreement certificate for a whole system. But you can do all of that research up front without actually having to build stuff, and it's really fast-tracked a lot of new technologies in the industry and the new materials and systems. Things like mechanical, electrical and heating systems all used to have to be worked out by hand, you know, the volumes of rooms, and then all the calculations for daylight and sunlight and the heating in winter and the cooling in summer. It's all done at a touch of a button now. If you put your right information in up front, you can get the information out very, very quickly. Create. we can now design stuff and actually be able to look at it in virtual reality or even in augmented reality with the new technologies that are out. So you can actually walk down a street and look at a design that someone wants to build a skyscraper or a cinema. You can actually see it on the street when you're walking there. We've now got the ability to create a lot more complex shapes, but make sure that they're more efficient and for the manufacture process. So jobs in technology, again, CAD technicians, the BIM coordinators and controllers, software designers, drone controllers, and offsite manufacturing. You know, offsite manufacturing, you don't have to know about construction now. You can actually get taught, and actually people are using it as you do the manufacturing industry. So as long as you get told at the beginning of the day what you have to do and how to do it, you don't have to be a tradesperson necessarily. You can still build offsite with all the modern technology. And the next page. So BIM 360 is the way the industry shares drawings and information on the construction projects done through various software platforms. This new way of doing things has led not just to new career opportunities using those platforms, but use of those augmented and virtual reality technologies. And also the BIM 360 helps improving audit trails during the project life cycle as well. So all the information you've got there, whether it be for payments, whether it be for changes in the scheme, the variations that the client had or the contractors requested, it's all there now. You don't have to hunt through paper files. You don't have to look through emails. The BIM 360 system is there for that. Computer-aided design's been around 30 years now, but it's amazing what it can do now. It isn't just about drawing on a screen. It does everything in 3D. You can do your Revit models for all your heating, mechanical ventilation. You can even do your budgets off of it now. It also allows you to do your marketing. I mean, that's something else I didn't say in construction, but this marketing is another thing you could get into in construction. Quality control through CAD now is amazing. So you can have your drawings, you can have your photos that you've done on your app and actually look and highlight the differences so that you can get your contractor back to sort stuff out. You can use the CAD in post-completion documentation rather than having all the hard copies of printed drawings. You used to have to do 3 of everything, which wasn't great for the environment. So we've saved a lot of trees using CAD. Drones, I'll just touch on that. There's been a huge take up on the use of drones within the industry, especially within the last 2 years. I think the photo a couple of pages before was actually one of our sites where we couldn't get into neighbouring properties to look at the state of their walls. So we actually managed to fly a drone over there with the council's permission and took some photos and some video, which was really, really helpful. So we knew what we needed to do to our external boundaries on there. So yeah, use of drones is great for hard to reach structures. Safety and workflow survey, so you can see what you guys are doing on site. Monitoring environmental factors, so to make sure that you haven't chopped down any trees if you're a planner, make sure that the contractor's playing ball and hasn't done the wrong things, or if you do get environmental issues like pollution, then you can actually track it and see what's happening with that pollution and try and sort it out. And drones have also enabled monitoring and improving worker safety on site. So you can actually see what you guys are doing instead of having fixed cameras where they can perhaps know some hiding points. You can actually have a drone that flies over and just sees what people are doing for their safety. Okay. Wow, that was the end of it. Excellent stuff. So thanks for listening. I know there's been some questions asked. Can I open these up and answer them? Let's have a look and see how we get on. Julian, how did you get into construction? Yeah, okay. I actually started off, funny enough, when I left school, the first thing I did a year's law degree, and I hated it. Although I passed it, I hated it, and I decided I was actually going to do something else. I actually went into catering for about 3 years. And then one day, my family had actually been in construction, and I ended up leaving a restaurant up in Manchester, and I came down for the love of a bad woman, and I ended up from being in charge of 250 people in a restaurant in Nottingham to being in charge of a photocopier as a QS. So that's how I got into construction. Callum's asked here, the majority of your family have been in trades business, so you thought you would do the same, as you always need to treat. You're absolutely right. It's like funeral directors, you're always going to need someone to build in this country, or to repair. You know, hopefully your family and yourself will be great tradespeople. You know that there's a lot of cowboys out there that have made some terrible mistakes on buildings, not just your little 1-2 man bands, but there's even companies that have done stuff in construction that you just wouldn't believe. So absolutely. And if you've got someone that you can talk to and give you advice that's been in it for a long time, that's a great way of getting into the industry. Definitely recommend you there, Callum. What do you see the demand for skills now and in the next 2-3 years? I think offsite manufacturer, as I say, I think that's definitely something you're going to see huge increase in. It just eliminates a lot of the dirty work on site. If you can actually get it built in a factory under controlled conditions, it means that you don't have all the quality control problems that you get with traditional construction. It means that your air leakage and insulation is going to be spot on. It also means that site vehicles going to sites, you know, everyone talks about white van man. Well, if we can reduce a few of those on the road, I think it'd be good for everyone. I think it's 90% on our housing projects. We've looked at it, and there's a 90% reduction in construction traffic on our projects compared to what they would be if they were traditional. So I think offsite construction is definitely something to get into. I think skill demands, I mean, Callum, you know, plumber, electrician. I wouldn't go for gas heating, gas engineer, because we're going to run out of gas. It's not good for the environment. So I would avoid gas if you're asking my personal opinion on that. But you're certainly always going to need plumbers. You're always going to need electricians. Who else have we got here? One new message. Where do I see myself for in 5 years' time? I would hope to see myself still in Greenwich, because we've got a 10-year contract and we're 1 year in. Yeah. But who knows? I've been around long enough to know that you never know what's around the corner with life. Anything can happen in 5 years' time. And I think 2020, you know, what a year it's been, you know, 2020 perfect vision, but it's been far from a perfect year. It's been awful, hasn't it? But it does focus people and make you think about what is something that's safe to get into. You know, you stay away from retail because shops aren't going to exist in 5 years' time. I don't think. There might be one or two. You know, even restaurants are going to struggle, I think, coming through this. So construction is something that is definitely going to last. What do I recommend to construction management graduates? Gosh, actual graduates that have got their qualifications. Get experience. It doesn't matter what you do, get out there, get into managing. If you can manage a small company, get into a small company rather than the big company. If you want to get some experience at hands-on and making decisions. If you get into a larger company, you might find yourself, although things have changed a bit, you might get yourself being told what to do. So I personally would avoid that. I've worked for smaller companies, and I know people that obviously worked in much bigger companies. I've always found that smaller and medium-sized companies are good to get into. I've worked for clients in construction. I've worked for local councils as well as working on the construction side, and I was self-employed for 15 years as a consultant working for councils, etc. as well. So yeah, get out there, get working, get yourself experience. Sometimes things don't work out in construction if, you know, with finances, with certain companies. I think that's a lot better now than it was 15, 20 years ago because of new legislation. So people do tend to get their bills paid on time. There's still a few of the larger construction companies. Fortunately, a couple of them have gone bust recently, so they're not as much of an issue as they used to be, but there's still others. So Callum, one thing to you, I would say, don't ever work for a big construction company. If you're a subcontractor, look for a smaller or medium-sized company, and always make sure you've got a contract in place and you've had someone read it. If you don't understand it, get someone else to read it. Okay, was that it for questions? Was there anyone else?
Just one question, actually, Julian. Just thinking about many of the young people that we speak to are coming in at level 2, level 3.
Yeah.
What's the prospects of them actually progressing into management roles, do you think, nowadays?
There's every possibility. As I say, we're an expanding company. Although we're a small medium-sized company, we're expanding. We've got this £300 million 10-year contract.
Yeah.
So we're going to be looking for site managers. Obviously, people that start off so construction management, they could come into site managers as a trainee site manager and then progress up and then become a contracts manager. Billy, that's a contracts manager for us at the moment. I think he was a carpenter 4 or 5 years ago for Amber Construction, I think it was, and Kears he worked for. He started off with them. He got his qualifications as in construction management, got his black card, which I actually recently did myself a couple of years ago, and worked up that way. So yeah, I think there's every opportunity. We've got other clients like the London Borough of Southwark we've worked with now for 12 years partnering. Their new 5, 10, 15-year contract, whatever it will end up being, is coming out to re-tender. And I think there's 3 contractors on it at the moment, but they're looking to do a lot of new builds as well. So we're definitely always looking. So we've got people that have come up from just being people that we've knocked on a door with and said, oh, we need to put a new kitchen in, a new bathroom. Within a few months, they've ended up starting working for us as an RLO or a trainee electrician, and then they've ended up in management. You spoke to Aisha; she manages the RLOs now, and oversees bid writing as well with me. And we've also got our electrical manager as well that started off as a trainee electrician. So we will always look to. I think there's definitely going to be opportunities there.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Julian. This has been more than an insight, I think, for all of us on this call. It's always, for me, fascinating when I hear from people like yourself in the industry, obviously very passionate about your work, your industry, and very loyal to your industry. You said over 20 years you've been working in it.
Yeah, well, it's actually 30. I've just worked it out. I think it was 1990. Yeah, because I was supposed to get married in 91. So that love of a bad woman that I came back down to start, I was supposed to get married in 91 and I didn't. Okay. So yeah, it was definitely 1990. So 30 years. Yeah.
It's a common theme, I think. Definitely, when we speak to employers, we do sense the loyalty within the industry. Okay, so next steps, if I move on to that then. So this project is a 6-month project, and it's going to be basically an opportunity for people on this call and others that will join later on to receive more support in preparing them for the world of work. We're going to roll out these types of sessions every month. So we'll have guest speakers from different organizations that will come and talk to you about their industry and their opportunities. And all the opportunities in these projects are local in South London. And again, just seeing the breadth of different job roles and opportunities, it's just amazing. So I would encourage Pims, I don't know your first name, I can see you and Callum. And there was another gentleman that joined, I think he might have jumped off now, to take this next step now to register with the program. Tracy, as you can see on the call, she's one of the support workers on this project, and she's going to be doing one-to-ones with everyone throughout the program. And that's going to involve an individual learning plan, so you get to look at what your skills are. You saw the list that Julian presented. There's a wide range of different skill sets that are required within the industry. And just looking at that list, it could be quite daunting to see actually there's loads on there that you might have, might not have. One thing I would say, skills are things that we learn, they're abilities that we're able to learn. Julian's talked about his own experience of learning on the job. But what's always, I think, more important is your attitude. And that's what we try and get across when speaking to people about coming to this industry. It's the attitude that takes people the distance and the skills you pick up along the way. So don't be deterred in any way by that. Julian and others will be here to support you to develop those skills. So our sessions moving forward will be more related to employability. So looking at how you prepare them to go into interviews, and we've talked about, Julian, as well, getting some site visits.
Yeah, absolutely.
From the year, so you can see actually the workers on site and get to meet some of the other partners on that project.
Yeah, and we've got our supply chain as well, Philip. I did forget to mention that we've obviously got a supply chain that we've used for many years. So we've got our own subcontractors, we've got our own designers, etc. And we can obviously, where we can't fit someone in, it could be that we can have, for instance, a ground worker that might be able to take someone on for if they want to get into civil engineering. So there's lots of, it's not just our company that we're opening this up to. All our supply chain have bought into this as well. It's part of the Greenwich contract is social value. It's a huge part of our company, as you know, Philip, social value. So we will always assist and help where someone can't necessarily come and work with us. They'll be able to work with us through our supply chain. All right.
And just to echo that, then, I mean, we as an organisation, we've been working with AE Elkins for the last 12 months, and they've recently just taken on a couple of apprentices from us. So, you know, there are real prospects, you know, to work with an organisation like that, and they do invest in early careers. So you've got my nod there. We'll see, you can see there info@buildingpathways.org.uk for those that haven't registered. Please do contact us and speak to Tracy or Rosie to do so. And that brings us, I don't know if we've got time for the poll, Usha, but we did have a poll just to get your feedback. It shouldn't take a minute.